Sing for the lighthouse. Lord, I owe my life to Him. You see, Jesus is the lighthouse. And from the rock to sin, and God His light of love around me. And I really see what it wasn't for the lighthouse. Tell me where would my defeat? In the book of 2 Kings, just a word of encouragement. In the mighty name of Jesus. I feel a virtue. I feel a virtue. The Holy Ghost is touching somebody's heart once again because I can feel it. As a matter of fact, I feel a virtue of love. Someone is feeling a feeling of love. My God. Because I can feel it. I can feel that virtue of warmth. Well, He is a God of love. And sometimes He knows that all we need sometimes is a little love and understanding. Sometimes God knows one hug can speak more than 1,000 words. One kind word. I feel a virtue. The Holy Ghost is upon me. See, God knows that sometimes one word of "you're all right" or "appreciate you" can help us overcome 1,000 words of negative reactions that we have received in life. And even sometimes the things of hardship that we think upon ourselves, how we've always messed up or we're not worth it, or people sometimes cause us to feel inferior, or even in our own life, sometimes we see in ourselves, we think that we can do better, and we're hard on ourselves sometimes, and then somebody comes in and shows a little love and respect. My God, it can move mountains. It can help us to look at ourselves from a different perspective. It can cause us to appreciate. And sometimes we may say, they just don't know how much I needed that. I feel a virtue. I feel a strong virtue. Because you see, we don't want to give up on ourselves. And then we don't want to always live our life because maybe we don't live up to everybody's expectations, so we're always striving to be accepted. Well, I know someone that will accept you upon repentance. You ask God to forgive you for all of your sins and to strengthen your life and to purge you. And believe that He is a God that will reward those that seek after Him. You let Him change your life, my God, and He'll show you a whole new path. And His ways are not grievous. The things God has us to do is not to make anybody else look good, but it's to strengthen you and cause Him to receive all the glory. Because when you live your life always striving to be accepted, people change. But God said He's God and He changes not. I find out that for a lot, the hardest battle in life is the battle of self. You don't know how strong your will is until you try to break a habit. I feel a virtue. Or until you try to change your ways. And you realize that something that seems so simple is so difficult. For example, a lot of people that reach fame in the motivation circuit, almost all of them, male and female, in their speech on motivation, almost all of them have a story of how they lost weight. And people applaud them. I haven't seen one yet that has not given a story of how they self-disciplined themselves in something. I remember one of the top speakers of old, I forget his name, Ted Zack or something like that, was over 400-something pounds, and as he began to speak, he started working on losing weight. And as his weight was coming down, he was still a nice size, and a young man in the supermarket looked at his mother and said, "Mama, look at that big man." And when he said it, the speaker turned around and tried to find the big man himself. He didn't realize it was him, because he was set in a course that he did achieve. I remember listening to, I think his name was Anthony Robbins. He talked about how many books he read, and for his motivation, one word he said, "I got my black belt in a year." Another female motivational speaker talked about how she was lost weight, and everybody clapped. And you say, that's so simple, is it? How many times have we said we're going to exercise so many times a day and never done it? How many times have you and I said we're going to lose weight, but we're still the same? And the only thing that's blocking, how many times have you said you're not going to be late anymore, but you're still late? How many promises have you made on New Year's, and the New Year's before that, and the New Year's before that, and the New Year's before that, and you're still doing the same thing? And yet there's nothing in your way, nothing keeping you from getting up and not laying back down when that alarm goes off. Nothing keeping you, amen, late at night saying, "I'm not going to eat," but you eat anyway. There's nothing stopping you from getting out and going to the gym or taking that run, but you just decide not to go. And you got the time, but you don't have the will. And it sounds simple. The only thing in the way is you. We are our biggest hindrance. You know, people can block you. They can put up stumbling blocks before you. But as long as you don't put a stumbling block in your own way, they can't stop you. They can't take that burning desire inside of you. And if they take your life, you still die with the zeal that you can make it, that you are. Our biggest hindrance in life is ourselves. We hold ourselves back more than anybody. We allow ourselves to go through unnecessary situations more than anybody. It's because we lack that self-discipline. This is why Jesus says when you come to him, humble yourself. Submit yourself to God. Resist the devil and he will strengthen you. Now you see, it's not so easy when Christ gave us an example when he said, "Father, let your will be done and not mine." How many of us say, "God, we want your will," but when it's all over with, we get up and we do our own will. It is our will that's blocking the will of God. This is why God tells us to let go and let him handle it. Because he will give us the strength to do the right thing. We battle the thoughts of our minds. The negativities, if that's such a word. The doubt. We bear our hidden pains. How many times have you smiled, but inside you were crying because of a statement somebody made, or an act somebody did, or someone you love, in a relationship, something, a friend made a comment that wasn't too good, and you smiled, but on the inside you're bleeding. You didn't know they felt that way, or felt that way. How many times have people made a joke concerning you? And you laughed, but inside it really wasn't that funny. Because there was no truth in it. Lord, help me to overcome myself. Give me the strength to overpower my will so that I can yield to your will. Lord, I don't need to point the fingers, no matter what I've been through in life, and blame everybody for where I'm at now, but I need your help to get to where I need to go. Helping me to deal with the past, let it stay behind me, face my fears. And as I walk forward, don't let me bring baggage of the past with me. You see, if you always bring in the past with you, you'll never live in the present. And if you don't live in the present, you'll never make it to the future. I feel a virtue. Help me to let go of the thoughts and the pains. And God, help me to let go of even the bruises that I have brought upon myself for self-embarrassment. Allowing myself, God, to be brought down. Allowing myself to be overtaken by situations that, God, in my right mind, I would have never done it. If I had known that, I wouldn't have done it. Somebody said, how could you have done such a thing in the time in which you did it? And my only answer to that was this: how could I have not done it? If I had known better, I would have done better. If I would have had the strength, then I would have utilized it. So you say, how could they have done it? What else were they to do? They could only do what was with them. They could only move according to the wisdom and the strength they had. And that goes for you too. But now that God has brought you this far, you can look back and see your mistakes. You can look back and see your error. You can do something about it now. God does all type of things to test your humility. He does all type of things when you least expect it, to see where your heart is. In Kings, just for a few minutes, while the music is playing softly, Kings chapter 13, 2 Kings 13, verse 1.
In the 23rd year of Joash, the son of Ahaziah, king of Judah, Jehoahaz, the son of Jehu, began to reign over Israel and Samaria, and reigned 17 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, and followed the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, which made Israel to sin. He departed not therefrom. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he delivered unto the hand of Hazael, king of Syria, and into the hand of Benhadad, the son of Hazael, all their days. And Jehoahaz besought the Lord, and the Lord hearkened unto him, for he saw the oppression of Israel, because the king of Syria oppressed them. And the Lord gave Israel a savior, so that they went out from under the hand of Syrians, and the children of Israel dwelt in their tents as before time. Nevertheless, they departed not from the sins of the house of Jeroboam, who made Israel sin, but walked therein. And there remained the grove also in Samaria. Neither did he leave of the people of Jehoahaz but 50 horsemen, and 10 chariots, and 10,000 footmen, for the king of Syria had destroyed them, and had made them like the dust by threshing. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoahaz, and all that he did, and his might, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? And Jehoahaz slept with his fathers, and they buried him in Samaria, and Joash, his son, reigned in his stead. In the 37th year of Joash, king of Judah, began Joash, the son of Joahaz, to reign over Israel in Samaria, and reigned 16 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. He departed not from all the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel sin, but he walked therein. And the rest of the acts of Joash and all that he did in his might, wherewith he fought against Amaziah, king of Judah, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? And Joash slept with his fathers, and Jeroboam sat upon his throne. And Joash was buried in Samaria with the kings of Israel. Now Elijah was fallen sick of his sickness, whereof he died. And Joash the king of Israel came down unto him, and wept over his face, and said, Oh, my father, the chariot of Israel and the horsemen thereof. And Elijah said unto him, Take bow and arrows. And he took him bow and arrows. And he said to the king of Israel, put thine hand upon this bow. And he put his hand upon it. And Elijah put his hand upon the king's hands. And he said, open the window eastward. And he opened it. Then Elijah said, shoot. And he shot. And he said, the arrow of the Lord's deliverance, and the arrow of deliverance from Syria, for thou shalt smite the Syrians in Ephah till they have consumed them. And he said, take the arrows. And he took them. And he said unto the king of Israel, smite upon the ground. And he was let down and touched the bones of Elijah. He revived and stood up on his feet.
Church, say praise the Lord. The theme of this, or the last two verses, Israel had went from one wicked king to the next. The kingdom had been divided. The south was Jerusalem. Majority of their kings, a lot of them were righteous. The north was Israel. And they went from one evil king to the next. Elijah was the servant of Elijah. He was a real man of God. And when this young king came into office, he came to see the dying prophet. And the prophet told him to open the window and take his arrow and shoot it toward the east. The east was going toward Jerusalem, the city of God. He was trying to get the young man to be zealous and to open up and to serve God. But you got to make sure that when you decide to go forward, that you're going in the right direction. So he says, shoot it toward the east. God, guide my feet. Hold my hand. Lead me in the direction in which you want me to go. I don't want to run or live my life in vain. I don't want to put forth an effort to do what's right only to find out that I went in the wrong direction. And then he told him, take the arrows. Listen carefully. I'm almost through here. And hit the floor. So the young king hit the floor 3 times. 1, 2, 3. I guess he thought it was, what is this? Why am I hitting the floor? You know, a lot of times when God tells us to do something or he allows us to go through something, it's to try our hearts. It's to see, show us what's in us. And we might not understand it, but he's trying to teach us something. He hit the floor 3 times. And the man of God looked at him and said, son, what have you done? Sometimes our own frame of thinking keeps us from the blessings of God, because we don't always understand what God is trying to do. So instead of humbling ourselves and following God, we try to figure it out and we end up cutting off our own blessing. It's like somebody was doing something that you normally didn't expect them to do, and you went off on them, only to find out that they was doing something for you, something you really desired. But because you didn't understand it, you attacked it. You went forth in anger. Be swift to hear and slow to speak and slow to anger. He said you should have hit that floor 5 or 6 times, because then God would have completely wiped away your enemies. But because you only hit it 3 times, you should only be delivered 3 times. A lot of things that come upon us, we want to point the finger at God and everybody else. But the truth of the matter is, whether it be good or bad, sometimes it's because of our own reactions. It's because of our own response to something else. He said, son, you're only going to beat your enemy 3 times because you hit the floor 3 times. Or you're going through this and you're going through that because you made this decision, that decision, and that choice. Whether you know it or not. That's why it's no good to keep going through life pointing the finger at everybody. Because people will be people. But you have to learn to purge yourself. He said you should have hit it. And this is my point. What Elijah was telling the young king was this: son, you should have given it. If you don't mind, repeat after me. All you got.
All you got.
That's what I'm trying to do. Give it all you got. Don't hold back. Once you find out you're in the right direction, give it all you got. Don't half try. Don't act like you really don't want to accomplish something. Oh, I didn't really want to do it anyway. Deep down in your heart, you know you do. Give it all you got. And I'm speaking in righteousness, isn't that right? I'm speaking in living the right life before God. Give it all you got. You don't like being a certain way. You don't like going through certain things. And you tell people, oh, I can live with it. If you know you can't, give it all you got. Don't be afraid to give it all you got. Just ask God to point you in the right direction and give it all you got. If it's a relationship, God put me in the right direction, in the right relationship, I'm going to give it all I got. If it's a job, God lead me to the right job, I'm going to give it all I got. I'm not going to be afraid to open up. I'm not going to be afraid to try. I'm not going to be afraid to fail. I'm not going to be afraid to get up if I fall down. I will give it all that I have. A lot of people are afraid to try. So you make excuses. But deep down inside, there's a voice saying, I can do that. And you can. We took the children to a playroom. And they had this rock climbing wall, pretty high. And one of the little girls had to be about 3 or 4, I don't know. Kept up with the big girls, and they got to that rock climbing thing, and that little big thing got to climbing that thing, and I saw her over there, and I said, oh my God. And I went to grab her, being one of the chaperones. I went to say, get down before you fall, and she was up there. And I went to grab her, and I had to stop when I heard her saying to herself, I can do this, I can do this. Oh my God. And I stepped back, and she did it. She did it. Sometimes we allow people to put fear in us. Ha! I feel the Holy Ghost. We allow situations to put fear in us. Because maybe it didn't go right the first time. We're afraid to try again. But give it all you got. Give it all you got. I've been trying to overcome this thing, but it seems as though I can't. Don't give up. You give it all you got. And God will meet you there. That little baby said, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And I didn't touch her, because if I had touched her and said, get down, I could have destroyed her determination for life. Just like it takes a push forward, sometimes one pull backwards can slow you down a lifetime. I'll never forget, I was in school in St. Louis, one of the first black families to integrate a community, University City. And I ain't too fast of a runner, and I was athletic, but we had this big race in summer camp. And for some reason, I was winning. But this one guy, his name was Nelson. I guess he was the pretty boy. He couldn't take me winning. And I was about to cross the line. And he took my shirt and pulled me back. And he finished first. I came in about 10. And everybody was cheering him up. Good going, Rick, get going. And I was out of breath saying, man, you cheated. Man, you cheated. Man, you cheated. All I could say was, man, you cheated. I almost won, but that one push backwards was just enough to push me all the way back. Don't let anybody pull you backwards. I learned that as a child. Don't let anybody pull you backwards. And don't give people false credit. You understand? If you know somebody has gotten so far and they're always trying to put you down, but you know they're not right themselves, don't let it faze you.